from polluting fuel into a transitional stage where they use the mix of it. But the question is, how much of the mixing is good? That's the biggest question. For example, we know that every household is stack. And so in a week, how much should a household stack? So that if you go back to the household to measure pollution levels, you can achieve the WHO values. It's the most toughest. I know there was one study that claimed that if you use polluting fuel, let's say, twice in a week, you can achieve the WHO targets. But how do you motivate people? So if you go to a household where, let's say this household is stacking, how do you migrate people to practice proper stacking? So that's the question that researchers are always confronted with. Moving people gradually, yes, you can stack, but we want you to use more of the clean fuel than the polluting fuel. How do we do that? So that is the stage that we need to be focusing on. And again, as I said, household pollution is a matter of fuel and cook stove. There has been a lot of technology. There's ISO standards for cook stoves, where the cook stoves performance are grouped into tiers. You have tier 5, meaning it's very efficient, performance is good, and then tier 0. We have a lot of cook stove on our markets. I'm not too sure if they have gone through this process. I'm sure the industry is utilizing the interest in looking for solutions for households and then selling their products through. There's a website. If you check this website, I'm sure there's that. People are in Ghana. People are clamoring for Amuto oven, but Amuto oven we know is in tier 0. But in Ghana, if you go to most households, they are clamoring for Amuto oven. Hey, Japa. Is it Japa? Japa, yeah, Japa. People are clamoring for Japa. So I think what is important is, I think there should be a proper way of ensuring that the product that goes into the market meets certain standards. We don't just drop anything we want on the market for people. Else, it's very difficult to achieve a healthy population. It's very difficult to achieve a healthy population. So if we want to address the issue of household pollution, I think we need to pay attention to the type of cook stove that is coming on the market. Of course, the fuel will also be wood. As I said, it takes fuel and technology to pollute the environment. So if you pay a lot of attention to the type of technology getting into the market, we can reduce household PM 2.5 level household pollution to some extent. Yes, as I said, these are sources of household pollution. These are some of the sources we see in household. Most of them are clean. Sorry. We have unclean source, then we have a clean source. So some of them, so that's what we experience in whether for heating or for cooking. Most households, there are both polluting sources and non-polluting sources. And that is something we can't take away from people. So in almost every household, polluting sources and non-polluting sources coexist. And so it's very difficult. For example, I have my LPG cylinder, and I don't have money. But I have this tripod, the open fire. How do you get me to use LPG when there's nothing in the cylinder? So I think this is a very, and this encourages fuel or stove stacking. Because we have all of them available, we can at any time transition from one to the other, right? Household pollution, again, is a social issue. There's very little awareness. People are more likely to spend money on the so-called useful or good things than spend money on clean fuel and technology. Assuming your daughter, your son is sick, will you use your last coin to buy the gas or take the child to the hospital? The other competing interests the very competitive interest in the household. That sometimes. And so for that reason, people don't have interest. Awareness are being created on different platforms. But are people very much interested in transitioning to either the so-called good fuel or cook stove? The awareness is there, but people are very unlikely to shift to better fuel. The other issues with social, cultural, economic, and other factors. Yes, our cultural belief. I'm not sure. In so many years ago, we know taste has been a problem. There was a conference, the ISE conference, and I think the single issue that came out was that people think if you use the cleaner technology, you don't get a taste you will get when you use the traditional stove, cook stove. So it's a cultural issue. You can't, I want a taste, certain taste in my food, there's no way I'm going to use LPG. I will still want to use the traditional fuel. So there are some cultural issues. My grandmother has used it. They built those open fire about 50 years ago. My mother used it. My great-grandmother used it. Am I the one to demolish it? It's a cultural issue, right? So they use moving people away from clean, from polluting sources. It's a bit challenging. You need to move with them. They have to come to certain understanding. And I think it's better stacking than using polluting fuel, and other. The size of the household and other things. So there are several factors that serve as barriers. So how do we work things out to move people to transition into a state where they can say, I'm going to stack, even to start with, I'm going to stack fuel or technology. Salary, it's a critical issue. I think it came up during the rural LPG program that Kintampo evaluated. Economy, my pocket is very key. People think, in the short term, people think about the money, the value, the money they're going to use to buy the LPG more than. In fact, if we're in urban Ghana, I'm sure urban Africa, the cost of LPG is even more expensive. If you add transportation, everything, accessories and everything, you go and come back, it's even higher than the cost of the gas itself. So if you put the two together, it's very frustrating. Sometimes, and bottle companies are not easily available. You have to travel a long distance. So if you put all these things together, the story is not very good for LPG. So money prioritization, other competing interests at home, affordability, and the upfront investments is also something we have to look into. I remember a colleague telling me one day that probably we need to think about a technology and a fuel for the poor community income households in Africa and look for something for the middle to high income households. So for example, for the poor household, what do we think we can do to improve their health? I'm not too sure that is an answer to all our problems. In any case, it's very difficult migrating people from the use of polluting fuel and technology to clean technology. The other barriers, as the unsafe nature of, I think there's an issue about biogas. No, biogas is something that is coming up. I know in Ghana we have over 500 households using biogas, biodigester. There are a lot of safety health issues. For example, if after treatment, how do you manage the waste? And even, do you compress, do you pressurize the gas? Will you treat it the way you treat LPG? There are several other challenges. But I'm sure there are several ways to look at this. And sometimes the supply of LPG itself is a problem. Today is there, tomorrow is not there. And in Ghana, I'm sure in like most African countries, there's a competition between drivers and households. So the prices are always going up. It's something that the government had tried in the past, but it won't work because we all have our interests. So there are several reasons that can be attributable to the cost and also supply of the products, which makes LPG not attractive in poor developing countries. Thank you very much. Questions?
Thank you for the wonderful presentation. But there's one thing I can pick from your presentation. Sorry to say, you sound a bit pessimistic in some of your statements. So I'm a believer and I have a strong faith in positive change. What is your suggestion for that kind of transformation to a situation where we have, clean energy in Ghana? Is it just doing research and always complaining about it's impossible to do this, impossible to do that? Thank you.
I'm very happy you are very optimistic. I'm very happy you are very optimistic. Yes, I think because things that has to do with behavior is something that you need to understand it very well, right? For example, if I'm using charcoal for a reason known to me, then you should be able to convince me enough to move from charcoal to LPG. I know it's possible, several years to come, to get people transitioned to use cleaner fuel. But my worry is the concentration on LPG. That if we rely too much on LPG, we can achieve that. But let's provide other options. Options that are cheaper and affordable. Yes, it's only when we do that that I think we can get people moved. Because with LPG, the product itself sometimes is not available. And that in itself is a problem, right? So I believe you can move people. Oh, for example, I think...
you give some options and then you shoot it down.
Okay.
You give an option, biofuel. Yes, and then before I could realize, you shut it down.
No, I didn't shoot it down. But what I'm saying, biofuel, biogas is very, because we have a lot of waste around us.
So for me, I think you have to give the way forward.
The way forward.
More consistent, more convincing approach to make things happen, not the pessimistic way.
Okay, thank you. The way forward, I think we can rely on briquettes. We worked with, you can produce them. The briquettes, we work with VRA to convert aquatic weeds on the river. We worked with them to produce briquette from aquatic weeds. I think at the point they didn't have enough funds. We did the first round and the result was good. We realized that the parameters we were getting were better than wood and charcoal. But we needed a formula. So we need to do several trials to get a formula. Then we go into the community to train the community. We never did that because they had no funds. I think briquette is there. It's very cheap. Instead of using charcoal, you can encourage people to use briquettes.